This meeting is being recorded.
There we go. Hi, Judith.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Sidra.
Hi, Frank.
Hi, Ron.
Hello.
Hi, Jenny.
Hello, everyone.
Jenny, we don't see you today.
Oh, hang on a minute. Oh, let's try that. Yep.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
That's because you're in different location.
Yes, I'm visiting my parents.
There's one now.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad in the background, yes.
Oh,
Looks like Rana's on her way in. Hasn't quite connected to audio yet. Hi, Rana.
Hi, Frank. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You're back home.
Yes, back home. I do stay home once in a while. Seems like I've been bouncing around a lot lately.
Mhm.
I felt
I'm
freed
at-
up as the vaccines came out. Now I'm starting to get nervous about traveling again because
Yeah,
of the new surges and all, but I did it anyway. And unfortunately, at the men's retreat last weekend, the second day we were there, somebody tested positive for COVID. And
uh-oh.
we had all been tested either the day before we arrived or the morning or when we arrived. And so everybody had tested negative, but then somebody converted and had COVID. Hi, Cindy.
Hi, Frank.
And then over
Hi,
the
Judith.
weekend, more and more people started testing positive, and I think 6 or 7 total. out
How
of
many
about-
people were there?
About 40 or 50. I'm not sure exactly.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And so it was kind of scary. And then I had to fly home, and I tested myself the night before my flight, and I was still negative. And I don't know what I would have done if I'd been positive, because I wouldn't have wanted to fly home and subject everybody to it.
Oh,
But I was
gosh,
negative, and I have remained negative, and so I'm doing fine.
good. Have you had your second booster?
Yes, I have. My husband and I get shots and boosters as soon as they're available to us.
I'm sure you
We're
do.
strong believers in science, I guess. So we just rush
I
out to try to get that.
wonder why.
Hey, Ron, I have a friend who went to Bakersfield for some rock concert or something this weekend.
really?
You don't
What
know
on
about
earth is
it?
playing
Really?
here? You could have had them stop and bring back some yarn.
Yeah, I should do that.
I hopefully we'll be doing that at the end of June, coming up from San Diego, stopping off in Bakersfield. I
Oh,
hope.
awesome.
Oh, good.
I look forward to it. I'll be here, I think, probably.
Hi,
In all
Kathy.
Hi, Frank. Hi,
He
everybody.
is stuck
Hi.
to okay.
I'm anxious to hear how Sidra did with her yarn chicken.
I'm still playing it a little bit. I do have some yarn I'm going to need probably to recondition again, but I did the sleeves, I did the neckline. I'm working on the end of it right now, so
Good
it
for you.
fits really well.
Beautiful. Oh, gosh.
Oh, the
that's-
design is gorgeous.
Oh, that's great.
Very nice.
Working on the end of it.
You've had a lot of extra work in that, haven't you?
Ah, so this is what's left on my skein.
Oh.
Ripping. But I do have, yarn I can recondition.
Yeah. I see why you were scared.
Yeah.
Yarn chicken.
And so, of course, I'm planning on taking it down with me to California on Wednesday in the 90-degree weather. So
The last day of our retreat, it was 90 degrees. And a group of us was sitting around knitting. And somebody said, now you know who the truly committed knitters are, who are sitting around with wool yarn in their laps.
Yeah. It's only 80 here today.
Oh, you have a
But-
cool day.
It's a cold snap. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cold snap.
But earlier this week, it was miserable. Just 100 and change.
Mm.
And so our Instagram promos for the week were about the air conditioning rather than the yarn.
It's like, come on in, we have air conditioning.
Yeah, quite literally, just like you can come stand under one of our lovely vents. But today it's almost human.
In Southern California, it's kind of overcast. Sun hasn't come out.
Yeah, I guess there's a lingering storm-like thing that might want to happen.
But it's not cold or hot.
Yeah.
Just right.
well, it's pouring here in the Portland area. So
Oh,
It's not pouring today. It has been, but it's not today.
You're
It's
further
cloudy,
north
but
than
it's
I
not
am.
pouring. Yeah, well, I think we sent it south. is what
Gee,
I think
thanks.
happened. Sorry. It was just like pouring. Like, a little bit of lightning. It was just, ugh.
I'm glad we don't have any plans for this weekend. So
A couple of little grandkids were here this morning and they were asking about, it's like their dad, it's like, well, can we camp? I know we can't go camping, but can we go camping in the backyard? And he was like, okay, yeah, I think you can set up the tent in the backyard. They're like 6 and 4. So they're gonna do stuff this weekend in the backyard.
oh, that's so sweet. I remember doing
It
that
is,
when I
it's
was a
fun.
kid.
I used to
Yep.
do it too. I thought that was
Yep.
cute.
It was adventure.
I feel like
Mhm.
you could not pay me to go outside as a child. I think my
Oh,
parents
no,
tried.
Oh no, ours, it's like you didn't come in until dinner.
Yeah.
They wouldn't allow it. It was just you stayed
I
outside
don't
all day.
leave until school. That was like, that's where all my books are, inside the house.
Oh, I took the books outside.
That's where, and of course, I'm a native Bakersfielder, so
Oh no.
you don't go
no.
sit outside in
No,
the
you
summer.
wouldn't there. No.
I used to remember setting up a card table and then putting a blanket over, and we called
Mhm.
it,
Yep.
Yeah.
let's go play tent.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I still haven't learned to ride a bicycle.
Can you
I make-
swim?
Huh?
Can you swim?
I can float around like a manatee. I just have to watch out for motorboats.
You and the manatees.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I have a pool. I swim. I like to get in and paddle around and swim around. Probably the most athletic thing I do, certainly in my own home. But yeah, I never learned to ride a bike as a child, and at this point it's more of a personality trait than anything. So I don't know what I would do if I learned to ride a bike.
You'd
I-
fall over.
I'd fall over.
We were just talking about that, and there's so many people riding bikes all around. And there's a couple weekends where our neighborhood is just shut off because they have these Ironman things.
Hmm.
And I just don't see the appeal myself. I just, no, riding around on a bike, I said, it takes too long. You know,
I guess
I got other things to do.
there's something out there for everyone.
I like gardening. That's my thing. We just went to the store and got another rose for the rose garden, Cindy. We got it almost all planted, and it's gonna look good, I think. We found out a couple days ago our friends are getting married in our backyard. So
So she's trying to do lots of plants really fast.
scrambling because we weren't going to garden this summer. All we were going to do was put up a greenhouse. So finishing the rose garden, and it's going to look nice. By the end of June, it'll look nice. Lots and lots of mulch. That's the secret.
Oh, I would think lots of water and lots of Miracle Grow.
And that too.
Get it done fast.
Yeah.
Get it done fast.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I hope Joe Ellen shows up today. I'm dying to know how her thick, thin yarn bind off splicing went.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, right.
What she decided to do.
Mhm. That's what's neat in knitting. We have so many choices.
Yes. We had a customer in today who wanted to make the Weekender,
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
one of those things. And her opening question was just like, what kind of yarn should I use? Well, tell me more about what kind of garment you want. I don't. Well, it calls for fingering weight. So we wound up just having to take her to every fingering weight yarn in the shop and describe what would happen if you knit a sweater out of it.
So she got an education and some yarn, hopefully.
Yes. What happened, Tim?
Speaking of education,
Oh, yes. I made Tim teach a class today.
Oh, good, Tim.
We had a last minute call in who wanted to come in like right away to do a class with no alert, just like no lead time.
Oh, wow.
She was in last week to learn crochet from my sister, and she wanted to come in to take a knitting lesson this week. She wants to learn them concurrently, or she's like, Tim, I'm not up for this. I'm so tired. So you're up.
I was the most up for it, even though I wasn't very up for it.
Because we knew it's been like 2 years since you had to do a knitting class. So she's like, I don't even know if I can do it anymore. And I was like, well, you'll figure it out. Bye.
Did he do
This will be
both?
good for you.
Did he do both knitting and crocheting? Did he do both knitting and crocheting?
Just a crochet or just a knitting lesson today. She got a
Oh.
crochet lesson with my sister last Saturday.
How did it go? Did she learn? I've
Tim,
tried to-
Said it was difficult to teach crochet, and I was anticipating a harder time than it was. She learned how to cast on and how to knit, but she stretches her knitting out because of how difficult of a time she has pulling the yarn through.
Mhm.
But by the time she was done, she had some very consistent looking knits on her right needle. So
That's great.
even
I would
though
call
she
that a
was, like,
success.
stretching out her
That sounds
cast on
good.
to take
Yeah.
time,
I could hear Tim in the other room being encouraging. Like, I don't know what she was saying because that student was very, very soft spoken. But you would hear, well, that's okay. No, it's fine. You just need practice. Just like, oh, good. That's why I can turn Tim loose on people, because he has a sweet demeanor.
Did she make another appointment?
She wanted to pay for like 3 classes in advance.
Oh, well, that
Which,
sounds
on the
like a
one
deal.
hand, yeah, give me $75. On the other hand, I don't want you feeling as though you could just drop in because I owe you classes.
Oh,
So
yeah.
call to make an appointment, and we will take payment with services rendered.
Mm.
That's our model.
my issue is I would hate to accidentally overcharge her because I lost track of how much she had paid ahead. So it's just easier for us in our bookkeeping.
And we have occasionally when these, because we still haven't started our group classes yet, we're doing our knitting and crochet and some weaving classes. I've taught 3 people to warp their looms in the last few months. We do them by appointment for one-on-one classes at a flat rate. And sometimes people kind of take advantage of the 1 hour appointment, and you get a feeling for who those people are going to be. So I came in, it's like, you have 10 minutes left. And then she sat here for another 35 minutes. She's like, can I just stay here and practice? Can you look at the, okay. You paid for an hour, ma'am. So I told Tim to tell her the next time that I wrote him up. She's like, sorry, my boss saw that we went over our time and I had
And
other
I got in
duties to
trouble.
do, so I got written up and I can't do that again.
Oh, that's funny.
So he's like, you just want me to lie? I'm like, yeah.
Now the whole world knows.
I don't know if she knows your channel, but if she does, she might.
I think that she saw Phrancko's stuff on the website. Oh my goodness, if you're watching this.
Tim is
You're
gonna
a great customer.
I don't edit the videos unless I absolutely have to.
I'll
It's
blur my face.
$25 an hour, Ron, for Frank to edit those videos.
That's what I made on the class.
I know.
And it's a minimum of 1 hour.
Yeah, 1 hour blocks, like calling out a contractor. I'll just chalk it up for this being an authentic place for us to chat.
There we go. So did you have your production yet? I was trying to remember which one it was and I couldn't.
So the ongoing production that's in the venue right now is closing tonight. So my load in is tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, I start moving in set pieces and building.
Oh, okay.
So last weekend, I was out at the coast with my dad, welding together our trick platform.
Oh, wow.
And so he's bringing that down tomorrow morning, and we're going to install it into the theater. And then I've got, I think, 2 weeks before that opens.
Is it ready?
I am working with a cast of very, very excellent people.
Oh, nice.
Just like veterans at the venue. And so I'm confident that it's going to be great and it will be ready on time. I mean, we've already started running it in acts and timing out the moments and really drilling down on making it the best it can be without all of the trick pieces installed. So I'm confident, yeah.
Good.
I'm also exhausted, and I don't know how I used to do this 5 times a year.
I didn't used to sleep.
Right? Only sleep. But it's a good time.
Which production is it? Which play?
It is called The Play That Goes Wrong.
Yeah, see, I haven't ever heard of that.
Yeah, it's new. Well, it's relatively new. It's from the last decade. It's still running. It's running on the West End again with its original cast. But
Oh,
it's a drama society trying to mount a production of like a standard 1920 murder mystery, but things keep going catastrophically wrong.
I think that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, things break, props go missing, actresses
somebody
get knocked
dies?
unconscious.
Does somebody die?
No one dies, although it does come close. So just like forgotten lines, missed cues, missed entrances, malfunctions.
Normal stuff.
Yeah. So it's a farce set on the back of them trying their best to put this play on, but making every bad decision they possibly can and being hoist for their own petards, I guess.
That's cute.
Is everybody ready to share their work? Who wants to start? Somebody show us what you're working on.
Yeah.
How about your Black Lives Matter sweater?
Well, I didn't want to start with mine, but I guess I can if you asked.
By popular demand.
I have made a lot of progress. I'll show you the front first. Spotlight. So there's the
Wow.
front,
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
and
Your stitches are so even, Frank. Those are
Mhm.
lovely.
here's the back.
Oh, yes, that's
Wow.
lovely.
Terrific.
Amazing.
Looks good.
I just loved doing it. It was so much fun. You know, it was one of those where every row you go, oh, look, it's getting better. It's more of it's showing.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this sweater.
It'll be interesting to see if people will ask you what BLM stands for without seeing the back, not knowing what it is.
Right, when I wear it, yes.
Yeah.
So I'll probably answer by turning around. Well, see if you can figure it out from looking at the back.
That's a good idea.
How did you miss it at this point?
I saw a lot of Black Lives Matter signs where they just wrote the words Black Lives Matter. And they were all in big, bold block letters. So that's why I chose big, bold block letters to do the BLM. And then, of course, a lot of times the symbol is a black fist. And I think I mentioned that there's a pattern on Ravelry for a knitting bag that has that on it and says Black Lives Matter. No, it says BLM on the other side. And I thought, well, I think this symbol says more, I'm a Black Lives Matter ally. So that's why I chose this symbol.
Perfect.
I'm reminded of the novel Tale of Two Cities, where one of the female characters knits secret messages into her knitting.
Yeah. Defarge.
Madame Defarge, yeah.
Yes, Madame Defarge. Oh. Okay, who's next?
Nobody wants to talk.
I'm about
Go,
to
Judith, go.
I'm just doing, let's call it a scarf. Scarf?
Yeah,
Yeah, scarf.
scarf.
And I'm using the pattern you use on your helix sweater.
Oh, are
But,
you?
Yes,
I looked
think
at it.
it's
I thought,
very-
oh, that looks familiar.
yeah, I think it's a very nice texture. But yeah, let's call it a scarf.
Let's.
It's something for my husband because he's always cold on the shoulders, neck.
Uh-huh.
So, and he doesn't want something that he has to slip over his head. He doesn't want to zip it, so it's just somewhat like a blanket with two straps in the front, a panel that goes um, below the shoulder blades and on the front, so he can take it off,
Yeah.
take it on, put it on.
Mhm.
The name that comes to mind for me is shoulder wrap.
Right, shoulder wrap.
I don't think people use that term anymore, but that came from my childhood. Well, that looks, hold it up again and let's look at the pattern.
Oh, that is so pretty.
It does look very different when it's all one color like that too, doesn't it?
It
It
is,
does.
boy.
It's
Yeah.
dramatically
Mhm.
different. That's right.
I like it.
Very
It's
cool.
a thick yarn. I didn't want to do a stockinette stitches, so
And isn't it, it's just such a simple pattern to give such a dramatic output, texture. It's just 2 rows of garter stitch and then 2 rows of, is it 1x1 ribbing or, yeah, 1x1 ribbing.
Oh, okay.
And then and they alternate, and that's all it is. I found it in the Japanese knitting pattern book that has 1,000 Japanese knitting patterns. I have the version that's written all in Japanese. But I found out that there is a version that has been translated, but the symbols are clear and the instructions are clear, so you can follow it even in Japanese.
Is the English version the same as the other one, except just transcribed, or?
Yes. Gail Rome did it. She did
Mm.
several books before, I think before she did this one. I have several other of her books.
Is it one of the ones by Shida Hitomi? Or
This is not the book, but this is, let's see, Spotlight.
yeah.
Yes, it's Hitomi Shida, and this one is translated by Gail Rome, translated with an introduction by Gail Rome. And I have this one, which is Keiko Okamoto's Japanese Knitting Stitches, a stitch dictionary, translated and introduced by Gail Rome. And as you can tell, I'm infatuated with
Yeah.
these knitting stitches. Here's another one, and I don't see Gail Rome's name on it. And now I'm looking for the one that I actually got this out of. And I think it's not on my shelf. And here's another one, Japanese knitting stitch Bible.
Huh.
I have a whole, this whole section is stitch dictionaries.
Oh, wow.
The Japanese knitting industry, like cross company, have a universal set of symbols,
Yes.
which is very handy. Like, and symbols for just about every obscure thing you might do. Just comprehensive, exhaustive list of symbols. I think you can get a key from Japanese Vogue, but if you've got a key, you can get Japanese knitting magazines, the books in Japanese, because the symbols are always used for the same stitches.
It would be good if we could do something like that, but I think
Yeah,
it's
that would be nice.
too far gone.
Standard. Bleh. Oh no, where are my scissors? I will happily show what I'm working on in just a moment. I'm splitting the sleeves right now.
Ooh,
Okay.
good.
Cindy, what are you working on?
Well, I finished and blocked the swatch for the V-neck Phrancko that I'm going to do for my daughter. This is the color.
Uh-huh.
And so I've got to start casting on for that. But why I'm going to do that one, I'm also doing, it's this teeny weeny swatch with the Milky Way, because that's one I want to like design as a t-shirt with the Phrancko, like a scoop neck, and I'm going to have short sleeves, and then the body is plain, but I'm going to have a lace portion around the bottom. And right now I'm looking at doing the traveling fern lace. And that was in one of the books, I got it from the library. And it is up, down, all around dictionary, so that it tells how you can do all these different stitches if you're doing them flat or in the round or working up or working down. And it's that was quite interesting. So
Oh, that does sound
that's what I'm
interesting.
working. So you might get me to be a designer yet. We'll see.
I'm sure you're
Clearly.
I'm just playing with it, but it's fun.
I'm sure you're going to be. Who else wants to go?
I'll go next then, but it's a prize to anybody who can guess what I'm making. You won't be able to guess. So
Oh,
Cute hat.
this is what it is.
It's a birdie.
No,
A
It's
bell.
It's a Christmas tree ornament.
That's what I was
No.
trying to, yeah, go.
It's a
No.
gnome.
no, not a no, no. Okay, so I'll try and show you a picture. Hang on a minute. So let's turn this around, see if you can see it. Hold on. Oh, difficult to do. So can you see?
Oh my
Oh my
goodness.
gosh, how cute.
That's great.
Lemur.
That is a Momo
oh, okay.
from some character, and this is part of his ear.
Oh, from Avatar.
Yes, that's it, from Avatar. So this is for my niece, so it's a Momo.
Cute.
Yeah.
Is that in the new Avatar movie, the Avatar 2?
No, not James Cameron Avatar. Avatar, The Last Airbender Avatar.
That's it. That's it. Yes. It's a cartoon thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Mhm,
Yes.
mhm.
Yeah.
There was a film, but we don't talk about it.
Oh, okay.
I can't
Yeah.
imagine it in a film. I watched all the cartoons. I thought they were so good. With all the grandkids. The animation is great. I mean, there's
Mhm.
gobs of them.
Mm.
We had a lot of popcorn watching those a lot of nights.
Kathy, we haven't heard from you.
Oh, well, let's see. All right, I'll show. This is how far I am. So, oops, it's pretty dark in here. Hold on. It's cloudy, cloudy, cloudy. Kind of strange. There.
There we go. Now we can see it.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
That's
So
lovely.
that's that bumpy thing, and then there's the river running up the side, you
Yeah.
know, kind of like the side. So it's really simple. It's
Awesome.
nice to be able to get something done fairly quickly.
Kathy, I like what
Back to the painful shawl collar thing.
Kathy, I like what you said last week about what the pattern means and the river and the rocks and stuff. I think that's so neat because when you finish a garment and you look at it, it not only reminds you of the work you put in, but it reminds you of the
Yeah.
reason of the pattern.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I thought of it because of the design thing. We didn't have to knit a sweater, but it was playful and flowing movement or something like that. And we had to come up with a swatch. And so I'm going to do one for my sister in a bright blue because she would look good in a bright blue anyway. And then we'll have matching.
What weight yarn are you using? It looks
This is
thin.
a DK.
Oh,
It's cotton, linen, wool, and bamboo. Yeah, cotton,
Wow.
linen, wool, and bamboo. It's from the fiber company.
they got all those fibers into a DK. What? That's
I know. It's a nice weight for summer, and the way it is in Colorado, it's not at all like Bakersfield. Although it's dry, oftentimes, like this morning, I didn't want to go out and start working because it didn't get to be over 60 until about 8 or 9 o'clock, and now it's 85. So, you know, and then by 7 it'll have dropped 20 degrees. So it gets cold at night.
Oh,
So people wear sweaters most of the year here. Sweaters with shorts and sandals.
well, Rana, you can't show us what you're working on, but maybe you could tell us what you're working on.
I've been doing a lot of swatching lately. I love doing swatching. And trying some different patterns and so forth. I haven't accomplished a whole lot because I've got a friend that I'm trying to help that's not well.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you getting the patterns from a book or making them up, or what are you doing? Or different books?
Different books, the internet, Ravelry. I find that when I'm in a slump or not really motivated, sometimes all you have to do is go to Ravelry. And if you can't get excited in Ravelry, you don't care that much about knitting.
Yes, that's true.
You can get a bit overwhelmed in Ravelry, can't you? If you search for something and then you get 27 pages to look at and it's, oh, I can't remember them all.
Yeah, it can be a deterrent too.
Yeah.
Did you get your sleeve separated, Ron?
One of them. I'm knitting across the back now.
Okay.
We're almost there. Was it last weekend or the weekend before? We had a customer who wanted a particular pattern that I had to look up on Ravelry. I'm just like digging around, trying to find this pattern while Tim helped her. And by the time I found it, she had left.
Oh,
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 no.
She's like, where'd that lady go? I found the thing she wanted. She was long gone.
oh. That's in the conference, you know Charles Gandy?
Yeah.
oh,
Yes.
yeah.
That's one of the things he said. If you're gonna name a pattern, before you name it, go to Ravelry and see how many other people have named their things the same thing. Because that's the hardest thing to do. I
Yeah.
think.
And it's a hard dance because like common descriptive words help, like seed stitch cowl. Yeah. That, but then how many things are gonna pop up? But it's a seed stitch cowl. But then like things with rarer words as names, just like I want to knit that thing, that one, it's been on the front page, it's like a sweater, and it's like, you know, the one. It
Right.
starts
I can't remember. I can't remember. the
ranunculus. You're looking
designer.
for ranunculus.
Oh yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
Keywords seem to be the easier than spelling out a long sentence or a phrase or something about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you can start simple,
When I give something a title with like an evocative noun or adjective in it, I try and also put in a word in the title that says what it is.
good
Bloody
idea.
bloody pullover. Meow meow
Mhm.
meow meow tunic. You know.
Phrancko.
Okay.
My last
Loading
one was
my-
called the ITR pied sweater. And I didn't know what pied meant. It was my husband who applied that word to it. ITR, of course, means in the round, but I wasn't sure everybody would know that either. But one day he said, "Where's your pied sweater you're working on?" And I said, "My what sweater?" And he said, "Pied, you know, like in Pied Piper." I said, "What's it got to do with the Pied Piper?" So I went and looked it up. It's just a word that means multicolor, multicolored. And if you look at pictures of the Pied Piper, he's usually in a costume that's multicolored. So I called it the ITR Pied sweater.
Yes.
And I explained that in the first paragraph where we talk about the pattern called Beyond the Pattern in the publish. So what's
There's
up,
a
Ron?
little-
You were about to say
Oh.
you're there?
Well, I'm doing my thing where I put my stitches on my Tunisian crochet hook.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Now I'm about to pull back. So we're nearly there. I'll certainly be ready by the end of the meeting.
Okay. Did we get everybody? Did I leave anybody out? Speak up if I did.
I think we did, everybody.
Oh, good.
Anybody doing anything exciting for Memorial Day?
I might go down to the veteran cemetery where they're raffling off some AR-15s.
Oh, geez.
Love it.
You're gonna make us
Sensible.
all cry.
I just like, why are you doing this? And it's in the newspaper, and
Are you serious? They really are?
they really are. This is not a joke I'm telling.
Oh,
I just
no.
assumed that must be a joke.
It sounds like something horrible, I would say, right?
Yeah,
Yes, it does.
No,
outrageous.
even I wouldn't say something that horrible. Yes, that is the city of Bakersfield's Memorial Day event.
Oh, that hurts.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
it chills the blood that isn't boiling.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, so. But is anyone doing anything fun for Memorial Day? Because
I retract my question.
Jenny and Judith, does the news travel to where you are about this mass shooting in Texas this week?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Yes.
We talk, our radio stations talk about it a lot this past week.
I see.
Yes.
It is something we find in the UK very hard to understand your gun laws over there.
Well, tell you
and I'm
what,
big-
we have a hard time understanding it too.
I'm not really understanding it myself.
I'm
but
sorry, I
mean,
interrupted,
think as a
Jenny.
person who's owned guns in the past, and my husband still has guns. He does shooting, but at a shooting club. He does target shooting and that sort of thing. So we understand about guns and having them, and people having them for sport. And my husband used to compete
Sure.
in the British team, but
Mhm.
we don't understand. But you have to go through a lot of vetting here to get a gun, and you have to have a license, and you have to have the police come round and check you out every year and that sort of thing. So they come round, your spot checks, they won't announce, they just turn up at your house and ask to see where you're keeping the guns, to make sure they're locked away. They ask to see, to make sure your ammunition is not kept anywhere near your guns, and all those sorts of things. And it is really as well controlled as it can be. You can't prevent idiots getting hold of them, but it's fairly well controlled. And that's the thing we struggle to understand. There seems to be anybody in the US can seem to just go and buy a gun. It just seems
Yes.
weird.
And not just a
They
gun,
can't.
but an AR-15, which is a
Yeah.
military style automatic.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you could win one at the military graveyard raffle.
I
Unbelievable.
bought your
just
tickets to
bizarre.
Bakersfield. I think I might go. I grew up in Kansas. And one time I had a teacher that asked, how many people had guns at home? And I was shocked because I was the only person in the entire class who didn't have guns at home. But my dad was a pathologist. Made a difference. That wasn't something you did. He had a lot of gun deaths he had to work with.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. My family does them and they hunt them and things. And I can shoot just enough to irritate my brother-in-law because I'm a crack shot, and I think it's because of sang-froid. I just don't care. It has nothing to do with my identity. So my sister and I are both really, really good shots, but it's still just, oy.
yeah. But Judith and Jenny, here in the States, it's the laws are by the state for guns and things like that.
Yeah.
So I think
So-
Colorado might have stricter laws. They keep trying to make them stricter.
Yeah.
Right.
Same here. They do have a debate on should it be provincial? Is it federal? How do you reinforce those laws or whatever? So
What have I done?
Uh-oh.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
That doesn't sound good.
Well, you'll see
Tim,
once
maybe he can help you. Maybe Tim can help you.
you'll see what I mean. I've got a lot of visual noise in this particular project.
just like when you go to your hairdresser and he says, whoops.
Yes.
Don't grow back.
Doctor, I have this terrible cough. Sorry. One, two, three, four, five, six. Sorry if anyone else was counting.
It's okay. When I joined in the round, I worked back and forth a couple times before I got started. So, but I think it's a gauge swatch. It doesn't matter. We just won't count those first 2 rows where I was off.
Okay, here it goes. Final kaftan. And then I join. Buka, buka, buka. Okay, let me get a few stitches away from this. So what I'm doing, I'm making a bathing suit cover up.
Oh,
Boo, boo, boo. Let's take a look.
Which yarn?
This isn't a yarn by Queensland.
Oh, that's
Um,
pretty. Ooh.
Called
Very
Coastal
lacy.
Cotton.
Oh, that's
The
awesome.
colors are really lovely.
So you can see it's very loosely knit.
Yeah.
It's a work cotton on 15s, and it's a saddle shoulder.
oh yeah.
Oh,
You can see it in there, right?
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Wait.
Well, it'll get some kind of neck treatment because that's a huge neck.
That's a pretty huge neck.
Even with my row gauge measured, or my stitch gauge measured precisely. So the other great thing about this is I started at about 2:30 or 10:30 this morning.
Oh,
Oh,
my
so
goodness.
it's going to be a
Wow.
quick turnaround.
Yeah. I
You'll
have
have
a
it
lot
ready
of
for Memorial Day. That will be your celebration.
yeah. I do not, in fact, have a 38-inch bust.
It looks bigger
Um,
than that when you held it up.
No, it is actually. It's made with 6 inches of positive ease.
Okay.
And because the swatch I took was dressed to stretch it out lengthwise,
Mhm,
because
mhm.
of course it will hang
Right.
because it's cotton and it's loosely knit.
Mhm.
So the dressed swatch is something like 12 stitches and 13 rows over 5 inches
Okay.
because it's stretched quite a bit lengthwise
yeah.
when I took the measurements, because that's how
That's
it
the
will
way
be
it'll
worn.
be when
So
you
right
wear
now,
it.
but it's also 6 inches of positive ease to hang like a bathing suit cover up.
Mhm, mhm.
So right now it looks much broader than it will in fact be once it's blocked
When
and,
it's
and
on.
stretched and all.
Very cute.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's
You
great.
come up with the most creative ideas. I love it. It is. It's
Well,
very fun.
needed to do something to sort of show off this new cotton and I wanted to show it off in a garment. Because people get these and your immediate thought is dishcloth, which is great. They make lovely dishcloths. But they're also this particular cotton. I just got it in. It's has a very nice, not twine-like feel. So yeah, I perused Ravelry, saw what was going on. I was looking at the things. Remembered that the t-shirt, the muscle shirt pattern that Frank published with the cotton that was knit at a slightly too large gauge.
That's right.
Or stretch. And I was like, well, what if I knitted a way too large gauge to make an open lace-like fabric and make like a cover-up top.
And that looks like something that might be interesting to some of the younger knitters to do.
Absolutely.
It's like, here, let me start on bigger needles. Let me go faster. I have a chance of getting it done.
If you're a speedy enough knitter, like the speed of an intermediate knitter, and you can hold size 15 needles comfortably, you could have, certainly if you make it a crop, you could have this cover up done in a weekend. So that was part of the goal, because I like to have patterns around that are projects around that are accessible to people who like to do something, who like that instant gratification. There are a lot of instant gratification knitters out there.
Well, I know the granddaughters have been talking about very much, they want ones that are on bigger needles and that they can go faster to feel like that they can actually do it. You know, they're
Yeah.
like 11, 12 and
Absolutely.
they can do it, but they don't want to do these little teeny things right yet.
Yeah. Do you remember the orange with the mohair sweater I did with the little Phrancko recipe
Yep.
on it?
Yeah.
5 or 6 people have left with that printout because they came in and saw the thing and they're like, what is this? How did you make this? What yarn is this? And well, it's just this Aran weight wool and this mohair. And the Aran weight wool comes in 200-gram skeins. And I made a sweater that I can put on my body with 2 skeins of that Aran weight wool.
Oh gosh, that's great.
And it looks funky, it looks fashionable, and I've had people leave with it who were in their 60s, and I've had people leave with it who are in their early 20s.
Wow. And yet I wouldn't think Aran weight wool is something you can wear in Bakersfield ever.
Particularly when blended with mohair.
Oh,
It is desert climate here, so it gets chilly some winter nights
oh yeah.
for about 2 weeks.
And maybe some offices have the air
Right.
conditioner.
Summer is women's winter
Yes,
because they turn the AC on in all the offices.
yes, yes. It's a problem for me.
Or you go to the movies.
I don't.
Oh, the
That's
movies
one
are
reason why.
freezing.
Right. Movie theaters are traditionally frigid.
Oof.
That was my nickname in high school.
What? Movies?
Traditionally frigid.
Ron, you say the
Sometimes I just
weirdest
say
things.
But yeah, I got this idea looking, you can see carnage of swatches of just like things that I tried while I was doodling. I just repurposed most of this swatch to be my scrap yarn for my splitting my sleeves. But yesterday I just littered the whole workroom here with swatches made of this. And then at one point I was just like sitting staring into the middle distance, and Tim was like, what is it? What's wrong? What are you doing? And I was just like, I'm thinking. And then while I was staring off into the middle distance, it bubbled up. It's swimsuit cover up. And then we were off to the races.
That's great. What a great idea. Well, it looks like it's getting close to the end of the hour.
Yeah.
And I always like to ask, does anybody have anything else they want to say? Something they haven't been able to get in edgewise? A question? Of course, you're also experienced knitters, and we've met together so long, nobody ever has a question anymore. We need to start figuring out how to market this and get some more new people in.
Right.
I am terrible at marketing. It's the one thing I can't do in business. And I haven't even put out a newsletter in months. So I need to do
It
that.
feels intrusive having to do that, having to send an email. It's just like,
I hear you, Frank. I'm the same way. That's the hardest part of anything.
well, I basically slap every new customer I have.
You especially, Kathy.
I basically slap every new customer I have with a Phrancko sweater that's lying around here somewhere. Look at this.
And that's the most marketing that happens anywhere for the Phrancko sweater, right in Ron's shop.
Yeah.
See, I thought that you were saying that you basically slap every customer full stop.
I consider slapping some customers.
That's what I thought he was saying too, Tim.
I stopped talking because other people started talking. But it endangers reputation.
Yeah, we all stopped when we realized you just said you slapped your customers.
with sweaters, with beautiful Phrancko sweaters.
Ron, you
So
better
maybe
not let-
Ron's shop is,
yeah. Ron, you better not let anybody see this whole video because you've got a lot of trouble.
It's, I think we clarified, if you watch the whole thing,
Let's get the whole context, everyone.
I'm doing marketing for Frank.
I think
And I
if you watch
appreciate it
those
so
videos,
much.
we see what we're like, that we have so much fun together and really enjoying each other's company. And if you've watched more than just this one, we actually do support and encourage one another in our knitting too. So
Yeah.
That's what we do.
And you get really upset when you miss it.
Well,
Thank you,
all for
everybody.
coming back, and it's great to see you all again. And
Bye.
have a great
Bye.
week. We'll see you next week.
yeah.
All
Hopefully I
right,
won't be
bye.
under investigation.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.